Good day, everybody. We are Group 2, and we will be presenting about the concept of courtship, a time of intentional love and discernment, and moving towards commitment. First off, we start with what Gary Chapman has to say about courtship. Now, most couples break up due to a lack of preparation before marriage in their relationship and the lack of skills that are required to work with your partner. As we said before, working with yourself or towards the betterment of yourself and your partner is crucial when it comes to being in a relationship. Now, dating, courtship, and engagement will quote unquote prepare your marriage as though it were the most important human relationship you will ever have. Now, in the Philippine context, dating, courtship, and engagement, as said previously in the other group, are necessary before marriage to see if a couple has gone through the proper progression of love before a lifetime relationship. As we've discussed in previous topics, marriage is not just a temporary relationship, rather, it is a relationship that lasts all throughout your life. Chapman argues that there are two types of dating: casual dating, which is not exclusive, rather, and the individuals are open and may be dating other people; and committed, which is the one that is exclusive and more serious. Now, with that out of the way, we now move on to courtship, its definition, and more.
A pleasant day, everyone. Today we're going to talk about chip, and let me introduce myself first. I am Leah Kirja Intiada from One History Group 2, and I want to start off my reporting in a question form. So I want to ask you that since in the previous reporters we've discussed what is dating. So what do you think courtship is naman? So I want you all to think the difference between dating and courtship. Okay, let's move on. According to the American Heritage Dictionary, courtship is an act of seeking to gain love or affection with a view towards marriage. So, in simple terms, we are in this stage of relationship or a choice that you make in a relationship where you want to witness or you want to see or you want to test the potentiality of your relationship towards marriage. So, I don't want to use the term test, but it has the idea of having a standard or having a checklist whether this person has a potential of being my wife or a husband. So, in the previous report, they discussed the idea of dating, where you get to know someone, but not in a serious way, or I think it's somewhat serious, but it's not as serious as you are choosing your etern forever partner, like your husband or your wife, because that is a different thing. I believe that courtship is crucial. These are the types of people where you meet and they say that they're dating to marry. So these are the kinds of people where they want to seek for a long-term relationship. But when we talk about courtship, it can always come after dating. And not all the time that when you're in the stage of courtship, it doesn't mean that you are in a stage towards marriage. Or you're in a stage towards marriage, I mean, but you are you cannot guarantee that this person that you are in a courtship with will be with you forever, or this will assure you that this will be your forever husband or wife already, because let us remember that courtship is seeking to gain love or affection with you towards marriage, meaning you look the potentiality of the marriage in this relationship you have right now. And according to Gary and Anne Marie Doe, define it as a personal and a mutual commitment of two people willing to investigate the possibility of marriage, which presupposes the possibility an actual mature love relationship that will lead to engagement. So let us always remember again and again that it is a commitment of two people willing to investigate. Yes, that is the term, investigate the possibility of marriage in this relationship. So again, when you're in a dating stage or dating commitment, I think that is you're getting to know someone, but without investigating the possibility or the potentiality of marriage in this relationship, because that that comes after dating. Because when we say courtship, it is something that is more serious. It is something that you have to take consideration, or you have to take it seriously, as this decision that you were about to make, or that you will be making, is a sacred commitment, not just to your partner but to God as well, because um marriage is sacred, and we always have to take it as something as special as our partner. And let us move on. The deliberate and conscious process through which two people get to know one another to decide whether or not to get married. Courtship assumes that both parties are mature and prepared for marriage before beginning the process. Unlike dating, which is not always deliberate and may or may not prioritize marriage. Courtship is also seen as a trial of God wills it for the couple to be together. So, as we can see here, courtship is also a challenge to couples. And sometimes we see the weakness of our partners, because that is how we practice our relationship towards marriage. As a part of this generation, we always think of someone, or we always have this perfect checklist or perfect standards without looking at ourselves. And again, in courtship, we have to assume that both parties, or both the both of the couple is mature and prepared for marriage. So there are a lot of contexts that may fall under mature and prepared for marriage. So it can be physical, spiritual, emotional, mental. We have to consider these aspects as mature and prepared for marriage, because again, marriage is something that um is supposed to be taken seriously. And courtship is also seen as a trial of God wills it for a couple to be together. Again, when we are in a relationship, most especially in the stage of courtship, we have to witness different sides of our partner. And that is where we practice, or that is where we test if those actions or those witnesses fits in the vows that for richer or for poorer, for sickness and in health, for better or for worse. I hope you understood those vows, and we get to practice that when we are in the stage of courtship. But again, let me remind all the listeners right now that when you're in the stage of courtship, or when you are investigating the potentiality of marriage, you cannot guarantee, or you cannot assure yourself or your partner that this will go straight to marriage already, because some cases that's that's not what happens. Sometimes when we are in the stage of courtship, we just investigate, and when we say investigate, you don't always get the good results, or the good um or the results that you want. You don't always get what you want. Sometimes you will see or you will witness something in your partner that you don't want to experience in the midst of your marriage, and that will make you think or make you introspect or discern that God, that is this the type of person that I want to spend the rest of my life with? And maybe later on that's not what you want. So even in the midst of your courtship, it's hard to assure that this will be your partner forever. That is why courtship is just the investigation of the potentiality or the possibility of marriage. And now let's move on to the key points of courtship. Number one, the primary goal is determining whether marriage is realistic possibility in this relationship. So you have to be realistic. You have to consider the practicality of marriage, that it is not perfect at all times. Sometimes in this generation we see um we we tend to easily believe what we see on social medias, that these people or these couples are happy, are not fighting, or maybe we think that these couples are living a perfect relationship, but there's no such thing as perfect relationship. We don't realize that until we get into the stage of courtship, where we're going to be able to witness the different sides of our partners. And sometimes there are times that we want to give up, there are times where we want to surrender the relationship, and that is inevitable in relationship. Even in married couples, there are no such thing as perfect relationship. But what I learned from uh, the previous lessons from theology is that there's no such thing as perfect love. There's no such thing as perfect relationship. But um, I forgot the term, but I think it's there's only such thing as perfectly loving an imperfect person. I think that's the phrase. Okay, let's move on. Number two, it is anticipated that both parties will be an appropriate age and maturity to consider marriage and a viable option. Additionally, both parties should be attracted to each other physically, emotionally, and spiritually. As I said a while ago, that it is a huge, or it is crucial for both partners to be in an appropriate age and maturity level to consider marriage. So I believe that this falls under the idea or the phrase that love shouldn't feel like a burden. So, when you're in an appropriate age and maturity, you become responsible partner. You become not a perfect partner, but you become a suitable partner, and you are mature. You can you can handle a relationship. And additionally, both parties should be attracted to each other physically, emotionally, and spiritually. I think the most important part here is spiritually, and I want to add as well as mentally, because these are the aspects that we should take care of, as these aspects or these four aspects builds ourselves, and these identifies who we are as a person and also as a partner. So if we're abused physically, what will happen to us? If we're abused emotionally, spiritually, or mentally, this can this can bring disadvantage not just to the relationship, not just to yourself, but to the people around you as well. Most especially if you are already married and you didn't consider these four aspects. It is crucial, or it is a serious matter when your kids are able to witness this. And That is why it is important for us, most especially in our generation, to take courtship seriously and to be able to consider the four aspects, which is physically, emotionally, spiritually, and additionally mentally, because we always have to take care of ourselves. Because how can we take care of others if we cannot take care of ourselves? And lastly, for number three, the process is controlled and supervised. There are distinct steps and boundaries, and if one party determines marriage isn't for them, they can choose to stop or slow down. Inferring from this statement, the couple understands that God holds them both accountable in their obligation to honor one another. Additionally, both parties' families should consent to the relationship. So, what do we mean by distinct steps and boundaries in courtship? So, when we say steps and boundaries in courtships, this doesn't define that. We don't mean here that um, you shouldn't wear these, um, you shouldn't do this, or you will, because this will result to being controlling. That's not what we mean here. Rather, we have to consider some parts in the relationship where we can easily determine, or not easily, but our heart knows naman if these aspects or these characteristics of our partner are are considerable for marriage. Because again, it's okay to have a standards, but let us not expect a perfect man or woman in front of us when we ourselves are imperfect. So, moving on here, it says that the couple understand that God holds them accountable in their obligation to honor one another. So, it's important for us to be reminded the idea of marriage, because in the first place, this reflects to the merit through the marriage of um God and the church. So we have to honor one another as we reflect that to our married life. We have to honor one another, because I believe that when we get to honor one another, we'll be able to respect our partner, to be kind, be patient, to not be arrogant. We take care of them, and um not just produce that to our partner, but to ourselves as well. And again, we are not a perfect person, but we can grow not just with ourselves but with our partner as well. Additionally, both parties family should consent to the relationship. And what do we mean by consent? Families should consent to the relationship. Um, we have to acknowledge the decision of the family to the relationship we are in, because it says nga in the 12 commandments that we have to honor our mother and our father. So we let us not forget that when we're about to enter the idea, or when we're about to enter the married life, we have to consider that our parents are the one bought us, who been there first. It's important for us to consider the consent of our families. And that is all I want to point out, or that is my reporting and the meaning of courtship and the key points of courtship. Now let's move on to the next reporter, who will present the three phases of courtship. Thank you, everyone.
Now let's move on to the next topic of courtship, which focuses on the three phases which builds a strong foundation for a lasting relationship. The first phase is exploration. It is not meant for strangers, and it's a progression that only occurs after a friendship is established. This is where individuals get to know each other deeply over time, allowing emotional intimacy to develop before romantic feeling emerge. The next step is about acknowledging the possibility of marriage, but not as a promise. It allows both parties to explore their feelings without the pressure of immediate expectations. And lastly, this phase allows couples to explore deeper into their emotions beyond their friendship and foster deeper connection. It encourages open communication and vulnerability, enabling to express their feelings and desires in a supportive context. The next phase of courtship is confirmation. In this phase, couples must reveal their true selves to each other, embracing vulnerability such as personal thoughts, past experience which can strengthen emotional bonds. Couples may also face personal pride, pressure, and the temptation to hide their true feelings. And this phase is about learning valuable lessons such as the importance of giving and taking, handling jealousy, insecurities, misunderstanding, and much more. The last phase of courtship is pledging. It is a phase of emotional maturation where the image of marriage is now a reality. At this stage, the absolute feelings for each other have been firmly established, creating a strong bond. And if a courtship is successful, the man can ask the question, potentially leading to a proposal for marriage, which may be asking their hand. If the woman says yes, then they are engaged. Upon their engagement, an engagement ring is appropriate for the occasion and a public announcement to friends, families, and relatives of both sides.
And now, with that all discussed, courtship is not a guarantee to engagement or marriage. Rather, it is a step towards it. Now, just because you and your partner have gone through all of the stages in love, courtship, dating, it doesn't mean that it is a guaranteed shot that you will be married to them. No, these steps are only paths we may take towards marriage. It doesn't always guarantee. Sometimes it works out, sometimes it does not. It ultimately depends on your relationship, how you are with both yourself and your partner, and vice versa, how your partner is with themselves and with you. Now, courtship is where one learns. It tests to see if a person has virtue and practices sexual moderation towards each other. And it also tests to see if a person can show self sacrifice, self denial, and the control of one's sexual urges. Again, being in a relationship means you have to sacrifice a lot of things for yourself and for your partner. In this case, you would have to sacrifice your libido to show respect to your partner. No? To practice virtue, showing that you are a good person, you have good values, and by practicing virtue, you become a good person for both yourself and for your partner. Now, it also tests to see if a person can fully give their partner a chance and their future children a chance to go to heaven. This is in relation to having virtue, and through having virtue, you can influence your spouse and your future children to have a better chance to go to heaven. And lastly, it will test to see if the person can love truly, selflessly, and wholly. Now, if we all remember what true love means, it is to give, to love wholly, selflessly, and truly to another person, to the person that you love. And with that, Catholic courtship is the period after accomplishing spiritual, mental, and financial preparations. Yeah? You must have it right with God, yourself, and your finances, especially the man, before you even consider courtship and marriage. If you want to attain a lifelong, healthy, and fulfilling marriage. Now, this goes in tandem with the other topics you've discussed previously. No? You should have it right with God, You should have a good relationship with God. You should have a good relationship with yourself. And especially if you're the man, good relationship with your finances. Because traditionally, it is the man who provides. No? So if we don't have any of these, then worst case scenario would be that we are not ready for marriage. But if we have all of these ready and right within us, then we can consider the concept of marriage. With that, we all thank you for listening to our presentation about courtship and its many definitions and the phases. And we hope that you take these lessons to heart, especially in our day and age where courtship and relationships are a common occurrence. No? We hope that you learn and apply these things to your life as well. So, again, thank you all for listening and have a great day.